Again, my name is John, recovered alcoholic and drug addict, and today I want to talk about the bottom line. I have friends in business, and I like to talk numbers, and I like to talk like what's coming in and out, like how much do you make, and like what's the profit margins, and I just like to understand kind of the numbers and how you make a product, deliverables, all that stuff. Because if you have a business, it's all about the transaction of something to gain monetarily. So I had one friend, and he said he made I think it was like 3.5 million, and then I asked him how much he spent, and he said 6 million. I was like, that sucks. But you didn't make anything; you actually lost. But there's reasons why, and like starting a business can be very expensive, and he looked at the projections of well, this is where I want to go with it, and these are the numbers, and this is the capital that I spent, and but you have to be meticulous about if you have a product that you're selling and you don't meet your bottom line, then you're actually losing money. You're actually going to go bankrupt over the course of, if you're lucky, it'll be quick. But if you're unlucky, it could be 3 to 5 years, and you've wasted all that time, and you've bled money, and you've used your resources, and you've probably gone bankrupt. And so just because you know what the product costs, how much does it cost to deliver it? How much does it cost for returns? How much does it cost, as a whole? Because you need to know your bottom line and then price your product accordingly to actually have a profitable business. So what is the bottom line of our business in recovery? Well, the bottom line we get to in inventory. We want to see what the bottom line is, because the bottom line says prior to recovery, and what recovery is really letting God run the show. So the bottom line is I need to see where I'm running the show. I need to see where it's costing me money, time, energy. Where am I selfish, self-centered? Where am I full of resentment and fear? Where am I a slave to fear? And then if I don't know that stuff, the repercussion is going to be drinking or drugging or relationships or codependent, like food, all of pornography, all of those things that I use for my break, that I seek the sense of ease and comfort through. So I need to know the bottom line of the problem, and what the cost is. And so if I don't know the problem and the expenses, how do I be profitable? So that's the point of how I see inventory, is really getting to the bottom line, to seeing what the cost of my life is, and how do I surrender that and let God be God and me be me. And so we kind of go into this process, and here's a step 2 prayer as we come and look at the problem and look at the manifestation of me putting substances in my body, the powerlessness over it, and then looking at the manager of the addiction, and how it didn't actually manage my irritable, restless, discontented spirit. Because we're born into that. We're born with the problem. We're born separate from God. And we're trying to connect spiritually with all these other things that leave us more empty. They work for a time, and then they run out. So we get to the point of going and seeing the futility and conceding to my innermost being that me run on self-will is going to be a train wreck. And we get to that point, and here's a step 2 prayer, and a lot of people miss it. And this is the intrepidation that most of us have, is really like, if I'm not driving the bus, if I'm not running the show and giving the directions, then who will? How does that even work? I do have a responsibility. Well, I'll just tell you right now, as a child of God, children don't have the responsibility except to obey their parents. That's a high responsibility that some of us overlook, and it's like God's the parents are paying the rent. The parents are paying the tuition if you're supposed to go to school. The parents take the responsibility, and I get to be the child. I get to play, man. I get to play with other kids in the sand pit, in the playground, through this process. And so here's our step 2 prayer on page 59. And the goal is, as I get to understand my liabilities in step one of I need a manager to manage my unmanaged spirit. I need to connect with a different spirit so that I get power over the things that I'm looking to be my manager. And it says, you need to find one who has all power. There is one who has all power, not seven things, not eight things. A lot of things have power, but there is one who has all power. That one is God. That one is your creator. That one is the creator of all things. And we find that relationship through, my confession in Jesus. And that's my doorway in. And we confess with our mouths, and then we receive the Holy Spirit, not the spirit of alcohol. May you find him now. Half measured availed us nothing. We stood at the turning point. So here's the turning point. We asked, so here's our step 2 prayer. We asked for his protection and care with complete abandonment. And this is how I get to be the child, because prior to that, I was my protector and I was my care provider. And if you unpack that, you see that in our adult lives, we've done that our whole entire lives. So this is a very serious prayer. A prayer of declaration of I am giving up care and protection of me. And now I go into a process and I declare that I want to turn my will and my life over to the care of God, to the care of Jesus. Jesus, take my life. And through his death and resurrection, I get to be made new. I get to abandon my old life. I get to abandon the old self of protection and care. And now I have a father, an employer, a director, a principal that is going to protect and care for me. And now I get to live a new life. And so I want to ask this question when I wake up every day. Is today a day that I will carry God's will into all of my activities? Is today a day that I will carry God's will into all of my activities? And so just ask yourself every morning. And here's I'm going to give your homework assignment for this week early. I've given it to some of my friends recently. But here's your homework assignment, and you want to write this down or text it to yourself. What are the things I do? Or what are the things I wish I didn't do? What are the things that I do that I don't want to do? Or that I'm powerless over? How about not finishing things? Like a lot of us think like, wow, like God took away the drugs and the alcohol. How about interrupting people? How about, what came up for me is not being romantic to my wife. Like, we've been together so long, like we know we love each other. We're together all the time. I wish I did that better to esteem and romanticize my wife. It's a simple thing, but why am I not doing it? What are the things that you're overlooking? What are the energies that you bring into a room? Like, is it I have that tendency to be little brother energy, and that bothers some people. That's not of service to certain people at certain times. When can I come into a room and be an impact depending on the temperature of the room? I might not always be like joyful trumpets and clapping. That might be annoying to certain people at certain times. And so what are the things that you do that you don't want to do, that you're powerless over? Is it your phone? Is it your scrolling? Is it, little things of buying groceries that you don't need, or eating out all the time, or, not looking after your physical body? What are those things? Because here's how you uncover this way of looking at how I play God, of care and protection, is I want to uncover everything that I rely on that isn't God. I want to uncover everything that I rely on that isn't God, and I can get to it through this question. And then I lead into inventory. And so I'm going to be able to understand how I play God by relying on the things that give me a sense of ease and comfort that leave God out of it, because that's how I play God. And I'm actually not carrying God's will into all my daily activities. I'm actually carrying my will in. And so you can look at it of like the simple word powerlessness, or you could look at it about when I honestly don't want to do it, but I can't quit. Like, what are those things that I'm doing? And how am I going to these things, even though I've quit drugs and alcohol, or I quit binge eating, or whatever it is? Because we can play God in subtle ways that we don't even know it, because we're just used to it, and it's not going to kill us. But it will separate you from God. And if I really understand this second step prayer and the first step problem, and going into the third step prayer with no amen and meeting the requirements through inventory, have I really abandoned myself fully to God? Am I relying on God? And I think that's a huge word of the big book. Utter reliance on God. Or am I going to these other things instead of God? When you honestly want to and you can't quit, then that might be a problem. If you're powerless over those things, then that might be a problem. And I do believe that you have to, make that confession of, like, I'm conceding to my innermost being that I'm powerless over this behavior. And no matter what I do, I can't get out of it. And going God in a step 2 prayer and asking him, I want to stand at this turning point, and the turning point is I'm asking for your protection and care, because these things that I'm going to provide me protection and care. And I'm playing God this way. And am I abandoning? And I love that word as opposed to surrender. Am I abandoning myself to God and his will? Or am I providing protection and care for me? And here's another spiritual concept, is like, we look at protection and care very differently than God. Because our blankie and our soother and our sippy cup and our teddy bear, and you fill in the blanks. All of those could be cell phones and pornography and masturbation and all of those things. All of those things give us this sense of protection and care to get our needs met. But God says, my rod and my staff will comfort you. And if we look at God as the concept of father, as director, so the father is your caretaker, the one with all the responsibility to instruct and to inform and to discipline. And God as my director, like, I'm just the actor. I receive my script, I memorize it, I study it, I want to live it to the best of my ability. It's changing who I was, and now I get to act differently because I have a director giving me the directions and the script. And I look at God as principal, as I'm his representation, like an insurance company. I'm the principal to the insurance company. It's not me writing the check for the damage of your house, but I'm the representation. So I need to dress a certain way. I need to act a certain way. I have a protocol to go to the situations that I have to assess. And then I look at God as my employer. He's my employer. He must have a job description for me. He must have written instructions. He must have a whole lot to say of what I do every day. And so I'm looking at God to meet these needs, and he says, not my sippy cup, not my teddy bear, not my blankie, not my crib, none of these things provide me what I need. But he said, my rod and my staff will comfort you. My rod and my staff will protect you. My rod and my staff will be enough for you. Because a rod and a staff don't seem too friendly to me. Like, if you came at me and you're like, I got you. I got everything you need right here. I got a stick and a club and a bat. And you're like, oh, I like fried chicken and waffles. I don't see that in the future. And it's like, oh wow, like, this is a whole different idea of care and protection. And he's going to protect me with his club. He's going to protect me with his rod. He's going to actually discipline me. And if I walk off course, I always know God's children because they get corrected very quickly and easily. And people tell on them and things happen and it's like, man, that's a child of God. That child don't get too far. But you have a good shepherd that loves you. And he is a protector and he does care for you. And he's going to bring you everything that you need. And sometimes we can sit in the desert just like the children of Israel coming out of slavery and going like, manna again? Like wafers, donuts again? Like I don't know what the wafers look like, but I'm assuming they're probably like apple fritters. And like apple fritters are really good and you're in the desert and you're eating apple fritters and then on day 100 you're looking at each other and I'm like, I hate apple fritters. Like I'm so sick of apple fritters right now. Like, God, what are you doing? Like this sucks. Like this provision that you're providing isn't, it's not godly. It's not from heaven anymore. This is horrible. Change it up. It was better back in slavery. And it's so easy to get discontented with and that's the spiritual malady popping up. Irritable, restless, and discontented. Now I'm starting to get disconnected from God because I'm irritable. I'm ungrateful for his provision. And sometimes I know that people learn the most with zero things. People learn the most of getting kicked out of rehab. People learn the most of losing a house and going to the streets. And you're like, oh no, we got to rescue those people. Maybe God wants you to be in that position. And he wants to give you the bottom line of like, you are still doing my role. And this is where you need to be to have the desperation of a drowning man or woman. Because the bottom line is, we're all playing God. As separated from God, we like to play God. We have to. We have to protect and care for ourselves. And some of you have had no parents or smothering parents. And it hasn't been real care or protection. It's been control and manipulation. And so now you come into your adult world and that's all you know. But it's telling me in a step 2 context that I have to completely abandon all of this stuff and just take the risk and let God come and comfort me with protection and care through his rod and his staff. And my job, my responsibility is acting gratitude. Like, man, this is what God has provided for today. Today's a new day. Oh my goodness, thank you. Today I get manna from heaven again. Day 1152. That's my role. That's my opportunity on a daily basis is to be grateful and to have gratitude. And so as we move forward on page 87 of the big book, we're looking at the step 10 and 11 context. As we go through our day, we pause. I want to be pausing throughout the day. I struggle with that sometimes, and the busyness of a day and the hecticity, whatever the word I can get consumed and I forget to pause. But if I don't pause, I get to the end of a day and this is what it sounds like. Man, what just happened today? Man, man, so much happened today. I was like, I can't even keep track of. Yeah, because I didn't pause. And then it says, when you're agitated or doubtful, ask for the right thought or action. Those two things are different orders. We constantly remind ourselves that we're not running the show. That's our proclivity, is to run the show, to provide ourselves with protection and care. And that's the bottom line on a daily basis. If you are somebody that's recovered, you have to remind yourself every day, many times a day, thy will be done, not mine. And then we're not burning foolish energy. And then we can start to live the values and principles of God, to be of maximum service to him and to his children. Giving is better than receiving. All of these things are the foundation of this new life. So watch in your homework, watch where you don't have neutrality. Because where you don't have neutrality is typically where you're going to play God. Where you don't have neutrality is typically where you're going to start playing God, is where you're going to start providing care and protection for yourself. You're going to prove your points. You're going to, interrupt people. You're going to hijack situations and meetings and all that kind of stuff. When you're not in neutrality, that's a good warning light on the dash. So the bottom line again is inventory will show you where you are not relying on God, and we have to rely on God utterly.